Hi, welcome back. Sorry I've taken so long to do a live upload. I haven't really had anything in particular I felt I wanted or needed to discuss, and I haven't really had much time recently to upload anything. But I recently came across a video called 10 Questions Every Intelligent Christian Must Answer, and it's by one GIIvideos, and I decided I would take a shot at answering some of these questions. The first one, as you probably noticed in the introduction, is why doesn't God heal amputees? A few things need to be kept in mind with even the way this question is answered. Number one, you're asking why God doesn't do anything, therefore you must assume that he exists to even bother asking this question. Number two, you must assume that God does not heal amputees in order for this to be even a legitimate question to ask. If I was to ask the fellow behind GIIvideos why he thinks God does not heal amputees, he would probably say something to the effect of, well, there's no evidence for it. I've never seen it happen. I've never seen documentation of, a limb growing back or any sort of thing like that. But the problem with that is it's what we call in logic the plea to ignorance. This is not in any way, shape, or form calling the individual ignorant. It simply means that a lack of evidence does not suffice to prove a point, either affirmative or negative. For example, a lack of evidence for the existence of God, which is usually what an atheist will fall back on, does not disprove God's existence, just as a lack of evidence supporting the atheist viewpoint does not prove that God does exist. The plea to ignorance, I guess, is like a two-way sword. It goes both ways. So I decided that I would take a few minutes to clear a few things up about, I guess, miraculous healings. Let's go for a minute to Lourdes, France. Southern France, small little town, wasn't really known for much until about the 1800s when Saint Bernadette came about. This was about 200 years ago, mid to late 1800s. She was a little girl about ready to make her first communion. First communion wasn't second grade back then, it was a little bit older. She was probably about 13 or 14, I think is about right. And anyhow, long story short, she dug a spring that still produces water to this day, and this water is supposed to have miraculous curing powers. So right then and there, you know that this has been around for 200 years. You can't possibly expect me to believe that there hasn't been any healing of amputees, even though up until recently we haven't really done the copious documentations that have to be done there today. People with all kinds of illnesses, terminal illnesses, not just like the flu or sorts of things like that, but people who are either physically impaired, they can be crippled, wheelchair bound, any sorts of things. Or again, if you're ill, you must be terminally ill. You have to come to Lourdes if you want healing, or at least a chance to get in the spring or drink from it. You must bring documentation from a physician stating that you are indeed ill. So you've got documentation right there. You are ill, you've got cancer, you are going to die. You go to a doctor who is at Lourdes working, who is not Christian. The majority of doctors there, I'm not sure if it's all of them or just most of them, I want to say all of them, are not Christian simply to avoid bias, and they're going to be looking for ways, these non-Christian doctors, they're going to be looking for everything to, I guess, disprove a miracle in this case. So this doctor, again, will examine the patient and verify, okay, you really do have cancer or whatever. And then if they are chosen, they are taken to the spring, and they are either immersed in it or they drink from it, one of the two. I don't remember which, it might depend. I don't know. I've never been there. I wish I have. Then I wish I had a chance to go there, but that's beside the point. And the patient is then examined after they are brought out of the water, and documentation occurs. If, for example, somebody goes in with cancer, the doctor documents the case, patient goes in water, patient comes out and is examined, there is no cancer, it's still not a miracle. There has to be 5 years with no relapse. If that has occurred, if there's a 5-year span with no relapse, it is classified as miraculous. The patient is examined 5 years after the occurrence at Lourdes, so they're checked out 5 years later again. If they still don't have cancer, it's classified as miraculous. Now, again, I will assert that even though there might not be documentation of an amputation being cured, a limb growing back, there's no documentation either way to show if anyone who has had an amputation has been cured. But we have seen, I guess, other sorts of healings and miracles that have happened even by today's standards, so we can rule out superstition and lack of medical knowledge. We have hardly any superstition, especially in the more quote-unquote advanced cultures. And also obviously have very a considerable amount of medical knowledge nowadays. And to be quite honest, I have to say that between going to a doctor and hearing, we're going to have to take your arm or leg off, I would rather hear that than, you've got cancer, it's advanced, you got 6 months to live. I don't know about you, but maybe that I would certainly myself want to hear, we got to take your arm off, and not, you got 6 months to live. So in other words, while I cannot affirm or deny the regrowing of a limb, I can affirm beyond reasonable doubt that there are miraculous healings going on and terminal illnesses being cured, even to this day. I would invite you to take a moment now to jump on Google, since you're already on the internet. It's only a hop, skip, and a click away. And check and go to Lourdes, France. Check it out. Maybe you could even find some nice stories that you could share with us. Put them in the comment box. You could make a video and share some of them, or just whatever. But anyways, I'd invite you to check that out. Google search it and figure it out. See what you think. And well, that's it for this. There's going to be 9 more segments to this series because there's 10 questions. And this answer has taken me about 6.5 minutes to do, and with 10 questions, I cannot do that all in one video. So keep your eyes open for about 9 more segments, answering more questions. And if you have any questions, post them, you'll get an answer.